Welcome back, everybody. I'm the programmer, and I'm here to teach you everything you need to know about coding to get a job. Today, we're going to be looking at functions. So if you're ready, put on your favorite tank top, grab yourself a crap ton of Tren, I mean a protein shake, and let's get started. Okay, so what exactly is a function? Well, a function is a reusable block of code that performs a specific task, right? Instead of repeating the same code over and over again, you can just make a function, and instead of having to type out all the same code, you can just call the function name. Matter of fact, we are already using some functions. Whenever we're writing console.log and we open up those parentheses, that's the function. This is the log function of the console. Same thing goes for console.clear. This is the clear function of the console. This executes a specific piece of code that is unique for the console. So, we can write our own functions. And that's going to look like this. So, a very basic function will always start out by typing out function. Very simple, very clear. And then you type out the function name. So if I want a function which would console log hello, I might call this, say, hello. You can name this whatever you want. It's just a name. You can call it log hello. I'm just going to call it say hello. Doesn't really matter. And then you're going to open up some parentheses. We're not going to put anything inside of those parentheses yet, but that's going to be important for later. What we're going to do right now is open up some curly brackets, and we're going to insert the code that the function is going to execute. So in this case, I'm going to say console log, and this is going to be hello. I'm going to put the semicolon there and execute that, and nothing's going to happen right now because we're simply defining the function. We're not actually calling the function. So how do we call the function? Well, very easy. We're just going to type say hello. We're just calling the function name right there. And don't forget the parentheses. Now if I execute this, it's going to return hello. It's going to return exactly whatever I'm putting within the curly brackets. So I'm just saying call say hello. Then it's going to look to whatever say hello is, and then it's going to execute the code in the curly brackets right there. Okay, so that's pretty cool. But as I told you, these parentheses here, they're not there just to show off. They serve a purpose. And this is for giving parameters to the function. And what does that mean? Well, you can call the function and insert a specific piece of data that you want the function to use. If it sounds confusing, don't worry. Here's an example. Let's say that instead of just returning hello, I wanted to console log hello and somebody's name. Then I can use the parameter name or whatever you want to call the parameter. It doesn't really matter. You can call it n. You can call it XYZ. This is simply the name of the parameter that you're giving the function. Doesn't really matter what you call it. So we're just going to stick to name because you want the names of the names to be pretty obvious to whoever uses the function. You want the code to be readable. And here I can just say hello plus name. So what's going to happen now if I call this function, if I'm going to call say hello, and I open up the parentheses, I want to return a name as well. So I'm going to tell say hello whatever name I want to return. In this case, let's go with Bob. And if I execute this, it's going to say hello Bob. Why does it do this? Well, like I explained, you're calling the function and it's going to look for the parameter name. Now, we said that the name is Bob. So we set this name to Bob. So in the next line, when it's going to console log hello plus name, it's going to console log hello plus Bob. Because that is the parameter. If I were to change name here to, let's say, N, then this is not going to work. Because there is no name. There's only N. So if you're going to change the name here, you're going to have to change the name here as well to N. And this would do the exact same thing, because N is going to be Bob. You're going to console log hello plus N, which is Bob. So if I run this again, it's going to return Bob again. Pretty simple. Let's make a different function. Let's make a function that performs basic calculations. In this case, we're just going to add two numbers. We're going to have number A and number B. This also demonstrates that you can insert multiple parameters. It doesn't just have to be one parameter. It can be two parameters. In this case, A and B. So, if I'm going to call this function add, and I can just pick any number that I want. We can add 6. We can add 9. And if we run this function, guess what's going to happen? Nothing. It's undefined. Because you're not returning anything. You're just executing this function, but you're not returning any value. When you're executing the console log statement, then guess what? It's going to console log something. But it's not going to return a value back to you. So how do we fix that? Well, we're going to go back to our function and we're going to add return right before the thing that we want to return. So if I adjust the function like this, and now I'm going to call the add function with the exact same numbers, it's already there. It's going to return the value to me, 15 in this case. So that's very important. When you are using a function and you actually want to return a value, don't forget to use the return keyword. Also, after the return keyword, you shouldn't have anything else going on. It should exit the function. So this return keyword is going to be at the very end of the function. Don't forget that one. Let me actually demonstrate that point. Let's add another function. Let's call it test. And we're not going to use any parameters for this one. But we're going to have two console log statements. We're going to have one statement which is going to print before return. Then we will return something. Let's just return the string done. And now we're going to add a console log after the return statement. So after return. And now if I call this function, it's only going to return the before return and it's going to return the done string. Well, it's not actually going to return anything with this console log statement. It is simply logging something, right? Notice the difference. This is a console log right here, and this is the return. We actually return this, right? But after the return statement, we're not doing anything. We're breaking out of the function, right? So that is something important that you need to keep in mind. And now that you know this, you pretty much know the basics of how functions work. And you're going to use them a lot when you're programming. So this is something very important. Now, there are also different ways how to write functions. And that is something that we're going to cover in the next episode. It's how you can write very short functions, also known as arrow functions. But that is going to be covered in the next episode. I hope you enjoyed this one. Take care, God bless, and goodbye.